Hi, everybody. Is perfectionism your problem? It's a little bit my problem. What are the reasons that you do or you don't do certain things? Is it tied up to the need to be perfect? Things like, why do you go to the gym? Do you go to the gym to be skinny for others or to look a certain way, or is it to take care of yourself? Why don't you take that painting class you've always wanted to take? Are you afraid that you won't be that good? Your first attempts will be embarrassing? Why don't you join that improv group down the street? Are you afraid they'll be better than you or you'll be bad at it? If no one saw you do something, would you still do it? If you couldn't share your experience anywhere and no one would ever know, would you still do it? If you didn't worry about needing everyone to think your actions and ideas were amazing, who would you be? Would you feel more free to express ideas and be more involved in things? Although we have been led to believe that perfection is the ultimate goal and that the lack of perfection in our lives is why we are unsuccessful, I can tell you that most certainly we have been told an untruth. Perfectionism isn't the goal. It is a series of fleeting moments in life that are not destinations one can rest at for long. No one reaches perfection. They only stop there for a brief moment before they move back into the same space we all inhabit. Perfectionism is always changing and it's always fleeting. Seeking perfectionism in life can lead us to great unhappiness. We tend to think that being perfect at all times, without flaws, will lead us to feelings of worthiness. It'll make us feel like we are somebody, or we did something, or we accomplished something, or, finally we've arrived. But in actuality, that's kind of the furthest thing from the truth. Trying to be perfect at all times and in all things can lead to some pretty unfulfilling habits that might actually contribute and promote to feelings of worthlessness rather than feelings of worth. This is the You Don't Know Me podcast, and I'm Juliana J. I'm your host. Here are a few truths about our ideas of perfectionism, just debunked. We tell ourselves we cannot struggle because that's weak, when studies have shown that the most people consider those who show vulnerability as highly likable, more believable, and many people feel more connected to those of us who are able to show vulnerability through weakness, such as not knowing how to do something, admitting mistakes, laughing at yourself in a healthy way. In actuality, those things are highly attractive to others. We tell ourselves that we aren't working toward perfection, we'll stop achieving or having goals. If we aren't working to be perfect, we'll just stop doing stuff. This is silly. We will continue to achieve, but we'll feel more freedom to achieve. Maybe our goals will get expanded. Maybe they'll become more exciting. We'll be able to achieve, but we will be able to do it through learning and through flexibility rather than rigid steps that might hinder our goals in the long run. Our goals and tasks may become really collaborative. We may find mentors or gurus as we work towards greater things. We may decide past goals no longer serve us and we'll move on to new ideas and benchmarks. Some of us do not do or try new things because being an amateur is weak and embarrassing. But in reality, you cannot perfect a skill unless you're willing to be imperfect. You'll also miss out on a lot of fun activities and doing things with other people that you might actually enjoy. If you're afraid to be an amateur, there's a lot of things you won't agree to do because it will require you to not be perfect. Everyone you know that is really talented or is really good at something was once an amateur. Being willing to be a newbie is actually surprisingly liberating. It allows you to really be much more creative with what you're trying to learn than if you go into something trying to fake how good you are at it. We confuse high standards with perfectionism. High standards are not perfectionism. High standards are either boundaries you have set for yourself, such as, I will not accept a job that underpays me, or maybe I will not date somebody who's always angry all the time. Or high standards can be goals you have for yourself, such as, I will buy a house by the time I'm 25, or I will make enough money that I will never have to buy thrifted clothes again unless I want to. High standards are just things you make up based on your values or the values that other people have. Some high standards we have are only ours because we feel the pressure from society to maintain such standards for ourselves. Often these high standards are linked to money, status, possessions, material objects. But like anything, high standards need to be balanced. If your high standards are preventing you from learning new things, from being open-minded, that's a big one. People can get a lot of high standards and then they become closed-minded because their standards are so rigid. It can stop you from having fun with people in healthy ways. And you might want to take a look at kind of balancing your standards with healthy exploration and new things. So you can still have your high standards or high goals for yourself, but balance it with other things so that everything, every goal or idea you want to achieve isn't rigid and has the ability to change and flex, and maybe even something you let go of. One thing for sure is perfectionism equals pressure, and pressure equals anxiety. Sometimes we perceive the pressure as judgments of other people, meaning that our need to be perfect is tied up in what others think of us. So it's not necessarily the perfection, the definition of perfection is ours, but it's what we're perceiving other people think. But in reality, who are these other people? The judgments of the others are usually thoughts we have created in our own minds. Think to yourself, who's judging me? Do I know this for a fact? Have they told me so, or is it just something I think that they are thinking? Have I extrapolated this idea due to things they have said in the past? Is it an assumption or is it a truth? Unless you know beyond a shadow of a doubt that other people are expecting you to be perfect, then you have to entertain the idea that it's only an assumption on your part, and it might not be something they actually truly feel. A lot of times when we think they will think this about me or they will think that about me, we don't even know who those they people are. It's an assumption we have about what we think society thinks. It's not a truth. If you have surrounded yourself with judgy people, consider reevaluating the group. Do they really care about you if they're always judging you? Or maybe the judging has just become a way of being. Find a balance between those that judge and those that accept you for who you are. You will be surprised how many people will accept you who you are because they want the same acceptance themselves. Sometimes we judge because we feel that everyone else is doing it and that that's the expectation. One brave person standing up for acceptance can change the dynamic of a whole group. It might be, especially if you've known the group for a long time, say you all met in high school or college or something like that. And at that time, because of your development or where you were or who you were a very judgy group. But time's gone on And you can change that dynamic, but because you set the stage so early for the judging all the time, now the group just falls into that when they're together. But if somebody can kind of stand up for acceptance rather than judgment, you can slowly create a space where that group can mature into a new way of being. Do you think you indulge in the self-perfection model? I do. I totally have these very high perfection ideas of myself and what I need to be. And if I'm not hitting those benchmarks of perfection, I am somehow not worthy or lesser. If you think that might be you, here are some characteristics to help you decide. Can you become easily overworked? Do you take on all the group tasks and you try to do them without asking for help? Are you the yes person at work when there's a project? Are you a people pleaser all the time, doing things you don't want to do, but doing them anyway just because you can't say no? And then are you somebody that will go above and beyond and then always seek praise for it? You always need praise for it. Like everyone needs praise. You know, it's not like you need to go through life without ever getting a compliment or praise or anything like that. That's not what I'm saying. But are you doing certain things to get that feedback? Here's kind of the opposite of that. Are you a procrastinator? Sometimes the pressure to start can be too much because you have fear of not being perfect at the job or task at hand. And so you're afraid to start it. So every time there's, especially if it's something that you are not an expert in. And a lot of times perfectionists will think they aren't experts at anything, even though they are. They kind of have a little bit of an imposter syndrome. Even though they know a lot of things, they're very smart at what they do know. They still think that they don't know anything because it's that fear of kind of being judged by others. And sometimes that can make you afraid to start new projects because you're not confident in yourself and your abilities. Are you somebody who you go out of your way not to learn new things because you can't be perfect while you're learning and you are worried you'll be judged by others? So you're afraid to take on something new, like you're afraid to try surfing or learn to ride a skateboard or whatever it might be. You're afraid because other people are already doing it better than you and you'll be an amateur and then that's not perfect. And so you can't go there. So you never learn new things. Do you point out the flaws in yourself to others in order to make yourself feel together and perfect? Like when you meet somebody, are you the first person that says like, oh, my hair looks so horrible today, or oh, I did this, or look at this thing about me that's stupid? And so you're pointing out your own flaws to other people when you first meet them or see them. And you're doing that so they can't judge you. You know, you're saying, I've already judged myself on this. So, you know, is perfection keeping you from intimacy? A lot of times that is true. If you are trying to live up to some standard of cuteness or beauty that you don't feel you live up to. Like you can't be naked with the lights on. You can't look at yourself in the mirror because you aren't perfect. So you don't do any of those things. You can't have deep relationships because people will find out who you really are. You don't have deep friendships because you can't tell other people your ideas for fear they will think your feelings and thoughts are stupid. So you're just avoiding intimacy, you know, whenever you can. You can't enjoy things like food or clothes shopping or swimming because you feel like your body is not perfect. So therefore, other people are going to think you're ugly. That's what you think in your mind if you aren't perfect, right? So you can't enjoy those things because that's something somebody who has the perfect body or the perfect shape or the perfect friend group or whatever would enjoy. And you can't enjoy them because you don't have that, or are not that. You don't travel because you are afraid of not knowing cultural norms. So a lot of people don't travel because they don't, that's the unknown, and they are not experts in the unknown, so they can't be perfect in the unknown, so therefore they don't travel. If you don't travel for other reasons, that's something else. But if your primary reason for not traveling is because you don't know what to expect, and it doesn't have anything to do with safety or anything like that. It's just, you don't want to run into somebody who is going to say, oh, tourist, it might be a sign that you're a self-perfectionist. How do you change your view of needing to be perfect? How do you change that if you're always trying to be perfect? It's hard, but you can do it. And a couple of things you can do are, one, you can increase your tolerance for imperfection and being okay. Being okay with being uncomfortable, with learning new things, with having new experiences. Get comfortable with the uncomfortable. So in other words, get out of your comfort zone. Do things that get you out of your comfort zone. Learn something new, talk to a stranger, go somewhere new, do something alone, join a new group, start a new hobby. Do something that gets you out of that comfort zone of safety so that you can feel perfect once in a while. That's really your comfort zone has been created by you so that you don't have to worry about being imperfect. So get out of that zone, start doing new things, stretching yourself. And when you feel uncomfortable, check in and thank yourself for leaving your comfort zone. Thank yourself for working toward a more happy and fulfilling life. The more you do that, the better it is and the easier it becomes. The first couple times you step out of your comfort zone, you're going to feel really awkward and weird, maybe a little bit scared. Like if you never talk to anybody in the line at the grocery store and you're going to step out of your comfort zone and talk to a stranger, that can feel really awkward and weird at first. But as soon as you start doing it, you're really like, oh, that's easy. That's easy to do, or compliment somebody on the street. The first time you do that, you may feel kind of weird, but it gets easier over time, and little things like sign up for a class and learn something new, or learn something new via YouTube or something like that, just get out of your comfort zone in these little ways and experiment with being a newbie at stuff, experiment with not knowing, experiment with stepping out into the unknown, doing different things, of being good to yourself, of accepting others. When you in your mind, when you notice yourself judging other people, say to yourself, I don't do that anymore. I don't know what their situation is. I don't do that. And when you get out of judging others, you'll stop thinking that everyone's judging you, which is a big thing about perfection. When we're trying to be perfect, it's usually because all of our energy is focused on other people thinking we're not perfect, So if you stop judging others, you actively start doing that, you will stop naturally thinking everyone's judging you. Say to yourself, you are worthy right now, and do this every day. You won't believe it at first, but just keep going. At first, you'll be like, this is kind of silly, and I don't think I'm worthy because I'm not perfect. Because that perfection model that you want, that has to do with like, it's up here and you're down here. So here's your idea of what perfect is, and here's you, right? So if you're down here, you're not perfect because you're not in here. So you're down here, you're not perfect. Therefore, you are unworthy. And you use this perfection model becomes a reason to feel unworthy because you're not perfect. Like, I don't have the job I want. I don't make the money I want. I don't have the house I want. I don't have the car I want. I don't have the relationship I want. I don't have the friends I want. So therefore, I'm unworthy because all those things I want are up here in the basket of perfect, and I'm down here, and I can't reach that. And another thing about perfectionism is that you always move the bar. So your basket's down here, and then you kind of get some of those things because you're working on it. But instead of going like, wow, look at me, I got those things, I got the job that I wanted, I got the relationship that I wanted, but then you move the bar. So you never get to be perfect because you're constantly moving higher and higher and higher. You never get to be perfect. So it supports your underlying belief that you're not worthy. So say to yourself every day, do it in the mirror if possible. Look directly in your eyes, use a mirror, and say to yourself, you are fine, just as you are. And then smile at yourself and do it every day. Every day. When people accept you without conditions, notice it. Notice when you're out of your comfort zone and you get a compliment or a kind word. Notice the positive feedback and be thankful. That's a big thing. Just noticing that your comfort zone, when you're out of your comfort zone, it's kind of great. It really is. I know it's really hard to believe because it's scary, but it's exceptional. You will love it. I know it for a fact. Like, sometimes it'll be scary and hard. Maybe it won't work out, but that's the same when you're in that place of trying to be perfect. Sometimes things don't work out there too, but when you're out of your comfort zone, it's kind of easier in a way because you feel like, well, I'm out of my comfort zone, so it didn't work out. It's not as weighing on yourself because you already knew it was an experiment. You were out of your comfort zone. But when you're in your comfort zone and things don't work out, man, it can really hit you hard, So just notice that when you're out of your comfort zone. Notice when people accept you without conditions. You'll be surprised. Okay, here's another thing. When you mess up, say to yourself, I am human. Therefore, I make mistakes, but I can learn and move on. You need to stop and say to yourself, I made a mistake, but I'm human, because humans are not perfect. We all are flawed. No human being on earth will ever reach perfection. There's always something somewhere, even the most holiest of holy, that are humans, make mistakes. So say to yourself, I am human. Therefore, I make mistakes, but I can learn and move on. And if you did something that you need to say sorry to somebody about, you need to do it. You will be really surprised when you say you're sorry to another person. It will heal the both of you and the relationship. And you have to really mean it. No faking that you're sorry and then doing the same thing over again 2 days later. Learn from it, be sorry, tell the person that you are sorry, and you will be surprised at the closure you feel when you say you're sorry and you really mean it. And when you make a mistake, learn from it. And pat yourself on the back for being courageous enough to learn from mistakes. It takes real bravery. I'm telling you, the people that stay in their comfort zone and never do anything, that's not as brave as those who venture outside of their comfort zone. That is incredibly brave. Studies show that your body doesn't know the difference between you patting yourself on the back or giving yourself a hug versus somebody else doing so. So give yourself love when you step out of your comfort zone. Physically pat yourself on the back, Give yourself a self hug, rub your shoulders and say, well done, well done, well done. Or even like, wow, look what you just did. That was great. Do something like that. Letting go of the need to be perfect is one step towards feeling worthy. Like we just talked about that, so I'm not going to go over it again for you, and we'll have other episodes about self-worth. Those are coming up. But let go of the need to be perfect. That's one step towards feeling worthy. What does healthy self-worth look like? It looks like peaceful days, not filled with daily drama. I'm not saying you won't have drama, because trust me, it will still come. But you will have more peaceful days. You will have a calm mind and actions most of the time. Like you'll just start discovering that, oh, I wake up in the morning and I go get that first cup of coffee and I'm not all freaked out about what's going to happen today. I'm actually have a calm mind. Or a problem will present itself at work and you'll be like, wow, I didn't get all, out of control about it and mad and angry. I had calm actions in dealing with the problems. You'll just start noticing that. What healthy self-worth looks like? It's a freedom to live with who you are. You're okay with things. Not everything. When you're into perfection, you'll look in the mirror and pick out everything. Oh, one eye is smaller than the other. Oh, this eyebrow doesn't have as much hair as this eyebrow. Oh, my hair looks stupid. Oh, I look old. My teeth aren't white. Whatever it is. I gained 5 pounds, blah, blah, blah. When you have self-worth, you have so much freedom to live with who you are, freedom to make decisions that are outside of the box, freedom to like new things, freedom to start new things, freedom to let go of old things, freedom to reinvent yourself, freedom to reinvent your style, freedom to have a different haircut and not be freaked out that everybody's going to notice. Freedom is huge. In every aspect of your life, you will see expansion and freedom. If you have healthy self-worth, you will be able to listen to your internal wisdom / intuition with ease. It'll naturally happen. You'll naturally trust what your intuition is telling you. And so therefore you'll hear it. A lot of times you don't hear your internal wisdom or intuition simply because you're so caught up in perfectionism that you're not even listening to yourself anymore. Because perfectionism breeds stress and anxiety. And stress and anxiety are loud, and they will cancel out your internal wisdom and intuition. You'll be able to take good care of yourself. You will literally stop and take good care of yourself. It will be more meaningful to you. It won't be like this one chore you have to do, but then you got to get back to being perfect. You got to get back to that proposal because you need it to be perfect. You will take good care of yourself, which one of those things would be you'll have healthier boundaries or even be able to have boundaries. Like I wasn't even able to have boundaries until recently because I was so low I was so unworthy in my own mind. I wasn't even worthy of boundaries. So I just let everybody decide what those were for me. And so when you get healthy self-worth, you'll naturally have boundaries, and it won't be as hard as it is when you feel worthless. Believe me. You'll be able to work and move through issues with greater strategy and understanding. So when an issue presents itself to you, you'll be able to step outside and see the big picture of it. The ability to strategize will be limitless, and you'll have more understanding for what happened. Instead of like, oh, somebody rear-ended my car and, what am I going to do now? I have no idea what I'm going to do now. I'm in this rigid model of what happens when you get hit, when somebody rear ends you. I I don't know what that is, and I don't have any understanding for that other person or myself or what's going to happen, then that creates just all this anxiety and stress. I'm not saying being rear-ended isn't stressful or anything like that, but what I am saying is your approach to it your anxiety and stress levels depend somewhat on your approach to it. So if you can be understanding as to why somebody might have done that or what happened, what you did, or any of that stuff, it will be helpful. You won't let a bad comment completely define you. This is a big thing. I used to do this all the time. One bad comment defines you, but 1,000 great comments you don't even hear, right? That will, if you have healthy self-worth, you will not be so susceptible to someone's bad comment about you. And you'll be able to look at it rationally. Why would they have that bad comment about you? Do you own it? Do you not own it? Are they having a bad day? Did they want to make you feel bad? Did you actually do something bad? Whatever. You'll have more ability to look at it outside of, is it defining me as being perfect or not? Once, somebody says something bad about you or gives you a bad comment or bad feedback, like something that hurts your feelings or whatever, if you're in that model of you're trying to be perfect all the time, that's unacceptable and it will eat you alive. But if you're not in that model and somebody says something like, you can actually look at it from the outside. When you're in the perfection model, you only look at it from the inside and how it's damaging your perception of perfect. But when you are not in that model of perfection, you can actually look at it from all sides and angles, upside down, around, from the outside, from the inside, wherever, and really analyze it in a constructive way, a healthy way, rather than how it is destroying your model of perfection or self, and it's devastating. You'll be able to give yourself compassion. Self-compassion is huge. You'll be able to be compassionate towards yourself and not be like, oh, you stupid, look what you did. But you could be able to go like, man, I totally see how that would have happened because you weren't paying attention there, or whatever, whatever it is. And let's just fix it. It won't be so devastating because, oh my gosh, here's a moment where I did something and everybody can see I'm not perfect and I hate myself, That won't be part of the dialogue anymore. You will be able to comfort yourself when things happen because, again, you aren't in the bubble of perfection and people are popping it and then you don't know how to respond to that. You're in a different space where you can comfort yourself because you can look at things in a different ways, not from the inside, but just in different ways, and be disconnected from it a little bit at times. You won't stop having goals or working towards them, but you will do so with more openness and flexibility, which will allow your goals to be like huger, take on more weight, and be just really incredible. Now, with all this said, know that change is not linear. It's forward, backwards, upside down, sideways, everything in between. So be kind to yourself. I have faith in you. You can do this. It's going to take a while. It's not easy to change these things we've been doing for quite a long time. And when you go out into the real world, in your own home, in your own house, not talking to anybody, you can feel like, okay, I feel good about myself. And then you walk outside and you meet somebody, a friend of yours who's really judgmental or whatever, and then you're back in that space, and then you leave that and you feel bad because you were, judging everybody else too. Just be kind to yourself, Change is not linear. Sometimes that will happen. Just note it and go, okay, next time I'm going to try to do something different with that, or I'm going to say something or whatever it is, and let it go. Because it's not perfection. So you're not going to go from one model to another model with complete perfection, because that really only exists in fleeting moments. And it's always changing. So what was perfect yesterday is not perfect for today. So thank you all for listening. Know that I love you. Know that I support you. And you got this. You can do it. I'm not going to say it's easy, but you can do it. I have faith in you, and I'm proud of you for taking the first steps moving forward. And if you're so inclined, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Take good care, everyone.